Hi friends, welcome back to today's episode of KPS Biotutorials. In the previous episodes, we have been talking about the translation in prokaryotes. In the very last episode, we discussed about the initiation of translation, that is how the initiation process takes place during translation. In today's episode, I would like to talk about the elongation and termination steps of the translation. If you are not listened to the previous episode, you listen to the previous episode, then only you can understand well about the topic. So I will be giving the link of previous episodes in the description box. You listen to this episode only after listening to the previous episode. So let us go to the topic. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Also enable the bell button so that you will get instant notification when I upload the videos. In the last episode, we have been discussing about the translation initiation. You know, the process of translation initiation was completed when the 70S ribosome was formed. When the 70S initiation complex was formed. You know, the 70S initiation complex is formed of the 70S or the complete ribosome and the mRNA attached with the ribosome, then the initiator tRNA with the amino acid bound at the P site, and initiation factors also bound with this 70S initiation complex. So once the 70S initiation complex is formed, the ribosome is ready for the elongation phase of the protein synthesis. So the next step of the translation is elongation. As the name indicates, the elongation step means it is the elongation of growing polypeptide chain by the incorporation of amino acids. So to start the elongation step, first thing is to add an amino acid to a site or an amino acid tRNA to the A site. After the initiation, the initiator amino acid tRNA, that is the FMET tRNA with methionine amino acid, will be bound at the P site or the peptidyl site, and the A site will be free. Now during elongation, an amino acid tRNA will be bound to the A site. This amino acid tRNA is brought to the A site by an elongation factor, namely TU or EFTU, like the initiation factors IF1, IF2 and IF3. Here in elongation also there is elongation factors which help the process of elongation. So EFTU is the first elongation factor, which is a 43 kD G protein, which will act in the GTP bound form. So this EFTU, like IF2, EFTU also acting with the help of GTP hydrolyzation, and EFTU will bring the amino acid tRNA into the A site. Also the EFTU protects the delicate ester linkage between the amino acid and tRNA in the amino acid tRNA molecule. You know, the linkage between amino acid and the tRNA, it's an ester linkage which is a very delicate linkage. So it is protected by the elongation factor EFTU. When the amino acid tRNA enter the A site, a hydrogen bonding will be formed between anticodons on the tRNA and codon on the mRNA. So the codon at the A site will be complementary with the anticodon on the tRNA. If this codon-anticodon interaction is suitable and appropriate, the GTP bound to the EFTU will be hydrolyzed. It is the same reaction happening as in the IF2 during the initiation process, where also the GTP of the IF2 is hydrolyzed only when the anti-codon codon interaction is in the correct form. Here also the GTP of the EFTU will be hydrolyzed only if the anti-codon codon interaction is perfect. In this way, the GTP of the EFTU contributes to the fidelity of the protein synthesis. So here you can see, after the initiation, P site is occupied by the initiator tRNA and the initiator amino acid. A site is empty. Now the EFTU in the GTP form bring the amino acid tRNA, and this amino acid tRNA will bind at the A site, and if the anti-codon codon interaction is perfectly made, the GTP of the EFTU is hydrolyzed into GDP. Then after the hydrolysis of GTP into GDP, the elongation factor TS, the second elongation factor, will join with the EFTU complex, and thereby the GDP will be dissociated from the EFTU, and thereby EFTU is free, and another GTP can bind with the EFTU and which can associate with another amino acid tRNA to repeat the cycle, and after that the EFTS also concomitantly released. So the function of EFTS is to dissociate GDP from the EFTU and to make EFTU free so that it can bind with another amino acid tRNA. So that is given in this diagram. EFTU in the GTP form binds at the A site, and after the binding, hydrolysis of the GTP takes place and EFTU GDP will be formed. Then EFTS binds with the EFTU GDP complex, and EFTU and GDP will be released due to the binding of EFTS. After that, EFTS also released from this complex. Now at the P site there is the initiator tRNA with initiator amino acid, and at the A site there is amino acyl tRNA with an amino acid. So here there is two amino acids at P site, one in P site, another in A site. Now the peptide bond formation occur between these first and second amino acids. You know, the first amino acid is the formylmethionine, which is linked to the initiator tRNA. This formylmethionine amino acid is now transferred to the amino acid in the A site. That means a peptide bond is formed between these two amino acid in the P site and amino acid in the A site. For the formation of a peptide bond, the NH2 group of the second amino acid will attack the ester linkage between the first amino acid and its tRNA. The NH2 group will attack the ester linkage between the first amino acid and its tRNA at the P site. Thereby this ester bond will be broken, and a new bond, namely peptide bond, is formed between this carbon atom of the first amino acid and the nitrogen atom in the amino group of the second amino acid. Thereby a CONH bond will be formed. A CONH bond will be formed. That means this CONH bond is formed. That is said to be the peptide bond. This bond is formed between the carbonyl carbon of the first amino acid and the nitrogen atom of the amino group of the second amino acid. And due to this peptide bond formation, now the tRNA in the P site is released from its amino acid. Now it is free and empty. And the peptide chain, this peptide chain is now with two amino acids, is linked to the tRNA at the A site. and the tRNA in the P site is now uncharged of the amino acid. There is no amino acid on the tRNA in the P site. So now both A site and P site are now occupied by tRNA. And for translation to proceed, the mRNA must be moved or translocated so that the codon for the next amino acid to be added in the A site. To encounter the next codon, the mRNA must be moved. For that, ribosome to be moved. This movement of ribosome is said to be ribosome translocation. This translocation takes place through the action of a protein enzyme called elongation factor G or EFG. Elongation factor G is a translocase enzyme which will translocate ribosome. This translocation or movement of ribosome is driven by a hydrolysis of GTP. So EFG also working with the help of a GTP hydrolysis. The translocation of the ribosome takes place by the following events. First, the EFG in GTP form binds 50S subunits of the ribosome. This EFG or elongation factor G has two domains, an EFTU-like domain and tRNA-like domain. With the EFTU-like domain, the EFG will bind with the 50S subunit of the ribosome. And with the tRNA-like domain, the EFG will bind with the 30S subunits of the ribosome. The binding of EFG with the 30S or the interaction of EFG with the 30S subunits stimulate the GTPase activity of the EFG. Due to this GTP hydrolysis, EFG undergo a conformational change. Due to that conformational change, the EFG, the tRNA-like domain of the EFG is forced to bind deeper into the A site on the 30S subunits. So EFG first bind with the 70S ribosome with the help of its EFTU-like domain, and with the help of tRNA-like domain it also interact with the 30S subunits, and due to this interaction GTP hydrolysis occurs. And when GTP hydrolysis occurs, a conformational change occurs in the EFG which cause or which force it to bind deeply in this 30S subunit. So to accommodate this EFG in the 30S subunits, the tRNA in the A site is pushed towards the P site. tRNA in the A site is pushed towards P site. Thereby, now the tRNA in the A site will be moved to the P site, and the free tRNA in the P site is now pushed towards E site. So after the binding of the EFG with the 30S subunit, now the tRNA in the P site is moved towards E site, and tRNA, amino acid tRNA in the A site is moved towards P site. Now the tRNA with the peptide chain is located in the P site, and A site is now become empty by the release of this EFG. After the release of the EFG from the A site is now empty. A site is now empty, and P site is occupied by the peptidyl tRNA, and E site is occupied by the empty tRNA. That means tRNA with no amino acid. Later, the tRNA in the E site or exit site is exit of the ribosome. It's come out of the ribosome, and thereby now E site also empty and A site also empty. Now another amino acid tRNA can bind at the A site. This cycle will be repeated in the addition of each amino acids in the polypeptide chain. So here in this picture it is very clear. During initiation, the first amino acid tRNA or the initiator tRNA will be bound at the P site. Then the next amino acid tRNA will bind at the A site. Then the peptide bond is formed between these two amino acids. Then the initiator tRNA move towards the E site, and the peptidyl tRNA will move towards the P site, and now the A site is empty to receive another amino acid tRNA, and the cycle is repeated in this way on addition of each amino acids in the polypeptide chain. Then the last step of translation is translation termination. That means the ending of the process of translation. The translation termination occurs with the help of stop codons. There are 3 stop codons: UAA, UGA and UAG. When a stop codon is encountered at the A site, there is no amino acid coding for this stop codon. No amino acids are coded by this stop codon. So when the A site encounter a stop codon, there will be no amino acid to enter A site, and thereby these stop codons in the A site is recognized by some release factors or RFs. There are 3 release factors, that is RF1, RF2 and RF3. RF1 recognize UAA and UAG. RF1 recognizes UAA or UAG. RF2 recognizes UAA or UGA. RF3, which will mediate the interaction between RF1 and RF2 and ribosome. That means RF3 mediate the interaction of the other 2 release factors with the ribosome. Then how the release factors cause the termination of translation? It is believed that these release factors carry a water molecule into the peptidyl transferase center and attack on the ester linkage between the amino acid chain and the tRNA, and thereby the polypeptide chain and the tRNA will be delinked, and polypeptide chain is freed from the ribosome. tRNA also delinked from the polypeptide chain. This detached polypeptide chain leave the ribosome. Then after that, the tRNA and mRNA remain briefly attached to the 70S ribosome until the entire complex is dissociated in a GTP dependent fashion by ribosome release factors RRF and EFG. After the release of polypeptide chain from the ribosome, the other complexes in the 70S ribosome complex, that is tRNA, mRNA, are get released due to the action of the ribosome release factor and EFG. These 2 factors require a GTP hydrolysis to function. So with the help of GTP hydrolysis, the RRF and EFG will cause the dissociation of tRNA and mRNA from the 70S ribosome, and later the 70S ribosome also dissociated into the 30S and 50S subunit. On this 30S and 50S subunit of ribosome, the initiation factors IF1 and IF3 will bind, that we already discussed in the initiation part. Then that 30S and 50S subunit of ribosome again attach with another mRNA when there is a requirement of translation of an mRNA. So this is about the translation in prokaryotes. I think all of you understood well about the translation in prokaryotes. I will be coming back with another topic in the coming episodes. Till then, goodbye to all of you.